Welcome to the meeting. This is the October meeting of Frankfort Board, the regular meeting. I'll ask Kathy if she'll call the member alternates.
Member Rosen? Here. Member Ludwig?
Here.
Member Green?
Here.
Member Pogrotsky?
Here.
Member Baldwin?
Here.
5 members present. I have the pleasure tonight of introducing or asking them to introduce themselves, 2 new board members recently sworn in. Walt Baldwin on my right, Anna Marie Rosen on the left. And I'll ask them to, I think most of you have met them already, but I'll ask you to, they will introduce themselves to the staff and to the public, because we do televise our regular meetings.
Well, I'm Anna Marie Pavlik-Rosen. I am a rather recent member of Frankfort. We moved here, my husband and I, about 5 years ago. Previous to that, we lived in Austin, Texas for 25 years. It became hotter and drier, and we enjoyed gardening. So looking at the weather maps, the Zone 6B travels from Texas through Oklahoma and up to Delaware, and we had visited Cincinnati for a daylily convention and felt Kentucky looked good, and looked at Louisville and Lexington, but decided Frankfort was right. My 25 years in 3M, I was in 3M for 25 years, about 6 years in St. Paul, Minnesota, and the rest in Austin, Texas. My division was moved there, and that's how we ended up in Austin. I worked in electronic and electrical products division as a mechanical engineer, first in product development, designing small connectors, and then in technical service for electrical products, advising customers on low voltage products, so connectors for small wires. As a kid growing up in what was rural St. Paul, we would run around in the summer and look at everyone's electric meter. And we didn't really understand the numbers. We just looked at how fast the little wheel was moving. And my family was very frugal or cheap, but ours hardly moved at all. The other people did have air conditioning, we did not. So I had that sense of energy, and transportation was always a big issue with my family, and who got the car and how far you could drive, all that. Let's see. Both my husband and I, as I mentioned, enjoy gardening. And as it got hotter and drier and lack of water, we really thought about where to move and where there were water resources and places where we wanted to live. And so we're aware of energy needs and water. I've been experimenting just a little bit with solar collectors. I often go to national parks, and I've got a little solar collector so that I could recharge my cell phone and call my husband. But it definitely works well on days like today, and it just has a little recharge battery, and you can plug things into that. For a solar, or from this to a cell phone, I can only charge about half, which is good enough for limited use out in the parks. Let's see. Oh, I should mention, I live in downtown Frankfort. We have a historic home, and enjoy being here and dealing with that. I also do artwork, printmaking, etching, and I always enter the county fair and the state fair. This year I won Best of Show for fine arts. And often my themes are based on environment, conservation of nature.
Well, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
And I'm Walt Baldwin. I was born in Frankfort. Moved back to Frankfort about 8 years ago. In the intervening time between San Francisco and New York and Wisconsin. Backgrounds in hardware and software engineering, also supply chain consulting, and more recently with technology startups with executive and strategic roles. I'll keep it short. That's it. Sure.
We recently had 2 board members who have retired from the board. They are Pat Lynch and Arthur McKee. think we have a member or two tonight who wishes to make a few comments about what excellent board members, Arthur and Pat.
On behalf of the Frankfort Plant Board, I want to thank Pat and Arthur for their years of service. They both took a keen interest in the functions of the Frankfort Plant Board and developed a rapport with our board, and they will be greatly missed. They spend an extraordinary amount of time and energy on behalf of the Frankfort Plant Board, and I want to thank them for that.
I'd also like to echo Doc Green's comments. When I was thinking about Pat and Arthur, I thought of three things. One, they were dedicated. Two, they were diligent. And three, they were community-focused. And I thought that's exactly what a board member needs to be to serve this board and this community. And I think they exemplified those three things as they went about their board duties for the last 4 years. So I wish them well.
Scott and Rick, I agree with everything you said. And Arthur, I could always count on Arthur to dig into details for me, and a very, very, very conscientious man he is. Pat was a good person to watch the details, and Pat would come up with little ideas and things, and I would find myself thinking, I wonder why I didn't think of that. So, they've both been excellent members, and I wish them well. The board wishes them well. So we can launch into the agenda this evening. The first two items have to do with approving submitted minutes. First set of submitted minutes are for the September 1, that was a special board meeting. The second set are for September 15, 2015, which I believe was a regular board meeting. Members have had an opportunity to look over the minutes. And, does anybody have any comments or motion or anything pertaining to those minutes?
I move for acceptance of the September 1st special board meeting and the September 15th regular board meeting.
Second.
We've had a motion, we've had a second. Any discussion? If none, we'll do this acclamation. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Hearing no no's, motion passes. Agenda item number 3 is an action item. Electric, water, and cable financial and statistical data for September 2015. Of course, David, this is you.
Yes, sir. Mr. Ludwig, members of the board, if you could turn with me to page 17. I'd like to start with the Frankfort Plant Board Statement of Net Position as of September 30th, 2015. Just a snapshot in time of what our balance sheet, or what we call Statement of Net Position, look like. I'll be real brief on where we are through September because we do have our financial statement audit presentation for June 30, 15. Before we get to that, I'll just do a real quick look at where we were. On page 17, line 70, total assets for the Frankfort Plant Board as of September 30th, 2015 were $151,677,000. Of that, majority of our assets are in property, plant, and equipment, net of our accumulated depreciation, which is $99.8 million, just right at 60% of our total assets. Our total liabilities, both current and non-current, on lines 125 are at $85.65 million. You have our assets minus your liabilities, give us our net position of the company on line 160, a total net position of just over $66 million for the period. Total liabilities and net position, same as our assets, $51.67 million. I'd be glad to go into any item in depth for the period, but if there are no other questions, I'd like to move and just give us a quick look at where we are, budget to actual for the 3 months of this fiscal year. So if we turn to page 19, looking at lines 50, 55, and 60, for the three divisions, electric, water, and our cable telecom divisions, total revenues for the 3 months of this fiscal year are just over $26.3 million. Against expenses of just under $22.4 million, giving a change in net position of just over $3.9 million for the period. I think it's something worth noting as of this amount, the $3.9 million does include a amount in electric, a large amount of other income, just under $1.4 million, for our Kentucky utility settlement that I think is worth noting as far as your user fee and net income or statement change in net position is more in line with what we had budgeted. So total budgeted for the period, we expected to be $715,000 and are definitely well above that. So we are on track for the period. I'd be glad to go into anything in depth, but we have included in your board package on pages 20 through 32 the statement of revenues, expenses, and net position for the company as a whole and also for each division. And we also have included many different cash reports, including checking registers for our main operating account and also for our impressed check register. So I'd be glad to go anything that you might have questions about through September 2015, but there's a brief look at where we are through the period.
Good, David.
Thank you, sir.
Members?
Good report.
I'll move that we accept the electric, water, and cable financial and statistical data for September 2015, which has been presented by Dept.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Hearing no no's, the motion passes. Item number 4 is a once-a-year item, action item. Accept Mountjoy Chilton Medley's audit report for the electric and water plant board for the city of Frankfort for the year ended June 30, 2015.
As Mr. Ludwig, we have with us tonight J.P. Roth from Mountjoy Chilton Medley, who are our current external auditors, who's here to present the audit. So I'll just turn it over to you, J.P.
He's one of my Boy Scouts, too.
Local?
Good evening, everybody. Go over the report. I'll kind of run through some really brief highlights, and I'm going to dig into the numbers and then have the report. I'll basically kind of start off. I know you have a copy of this report, but I think your page numbers are slightly different than ours. The independent auditor's report, which is the first report you come to in your own report. It's technically page 1, it's not loaded. Kind of outlines the management's responsibilities, the AR responsibility for the financial statements, and our responsibility as the auditors to audit those and express an opinion on them. On page 2 of our report, it states our opinion at the very top of the page. In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects financial position of the business life activities of the electric and water plant board for the city of Frankfort, Kentucky, as of June 30, 2015 and 2014, and the changes in financial position and cash flows thereof for the years then ended in conformity with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. Basically means we're giving you all a clean opinion on your financial statements. The only other item I'll mention on this report is the emphasis of matter. There was a new GASB statement, GASB 68, which deals with pension liabilities, which was required to be recorded in this year's statements. That's adopted this year, and you'll see the impact of that in the statements, which I'll kind of cover in some of the other things. After that, the next section of the report is just your management discussion and analysis. Management discussion and analysis. It's pages 4 and 11. Basically, you're all the representation of what you all see happening in the future, and also gives comparative information last year and this year in summary form. Jump over that, starting on page 12 of our report, is basically your statement of net position. I'm only going to touch on some of the new items. You have the GASB 68 implementation. You see the deferred outflows of resources and deferred inflows. Those are brand new this year. They're the direct result of the GASB 68 and the reporting of pension liability. You'll note that the net pension liability as of this year is $16,041,000. That's basically the Frankfort Plant Board's share of the state's pension liability. I was going to say, if anybody has a question anytime, feel free to ask. Going over to page 13, your statement of revenue and expenditure changes in that position. And very high level, basically your income from the net income, the net change in position from last year to this year was a decrease of approximately $3 million, with the largest part of that being a decrease in capital contributions, and then also having a reduction in some of the electrical revenue and the general increases in multiple areas on the expense side. Page 14 basically gives your cash flows, and then a good bulk of your statement starts on the following page, which is page 15, which outlines your accounting policies, which would be obviously something you want to review. Some of the more important aspects of these on page 18, it outlines your restricted assets, your restricted net position. You'll notice the big jump in that for this year is the bond issuance that was issued for the construction. So that's considered a restriction. Other than that, there aren't really anything significant policies to go over. Page 23, it does outline your debt. Your report, the final report will be slightly different. You had some changes from your bond counsel that basically the numbers didn't change. They just combined a couple items. And so we adjusted for the request. If you jump over to page 27 of the report, you'll see note H called retirement plans. That note spans from page 27 to 31. That is basically going into extensive detail of the effects of the new Gatsby statement. You can see it spans several pages, where last year this note was, I believe, less than half a page. So, looking through. After most of the bulk of the financials, the notes, we have some supplemental schedules, which basically, starting on page 33, these schedules go all the way through basically page 41. And these schedules basically break out the expense and revenue detail by department, and then also do some budget to actual in summary, and also individually by department to give you some more detailed analysis. On page 42, this is also a new statement, or a new schedule that is required from the new Gatsby 68. It outlines the net pension liability of the state, and then your all's allocation of that net pension. And on the following page, page 43, it goes through what your contribution is, and it also gives you the assumptions that the state has used in preparing what they believe the pension liability is. Following page to that, we have some additional reports that basically is on your, it's titled the Auditor's Report on Internal Control, Financial Reporting, and on Compliance of Other Matters, based on basically a government auditing standards. And at the bottom of that page, you'll see that we state the results of our test disclose no instances of noncompliance or other matters that are required to be reported under governmental auditing standards. So that's basically an opinion on that report. There's also a second report, and this report is over internal controls dealing with major federal award programs, which is a result of getting a single audit this year, and a result due to the federal funding we received. Once you receive or expend over $500,000 in federal funding, that triggers an automatic single audit that is required, a couple extra schedules. And as you can see in our opinion paragraph, which is the second to last paragraph on the page, it says, in our opinion, the Electric and Water Plant Board of the City of Frankfort, Kentucky, complied in all material respects with the types of compliance requirements referred to above that could have a direct and material effect on each of its major federal programs for the year that ended June 30, 2015. And that is specifically referring to the federal funding that you received. And then the last couple schedules, which are also new, which you did not have from last year, basically just outlines your federal funding that was received, and which is from the KA loan. And then we also have just a little bit of notes that document how it applies. And then on the last page 50, that's the schedule of findings and question costs. Any significant deficiencies were required to communicate in this report. We only had one carryover from the prior year, and that particular issue is actually in the process of being addressed, and we do not expect it to carry forward. Are there any questions that you all have for me?
It's not a question, but I always think it's really informative to read the audit, not so much just for the dollars and cents, but for the information that you all include in your audits about the plant board. For instance, on page 22, you list construction in progress. It's just hard to realize how many projects we have underway at a given time until you see them listed.
I was going to say, I have a couple of utilities that I work on. Most of them are fairly expensive. Questions or comments? I did want to add that I want to thank the management and the staff that we worked with this year for the audit. They were very responsive and made the audit a lot go run very smoothly.
Anybody have any questions or comments, JP? Well, thank you for being asked tonight to accept the audit report. So we have a motion in one way or another on this, members?
I move that we accept the audit as provided by Mountjoy, Chilton, Medley for the year ended June 30, 2015.
I'll second that.
Was it N14?
Discussion. If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Hearing no no's, the motion passes. Next item is listed as number 5 on the agenda. As an action item, consider Frankfort City Commission mitigation requirements for the Headend facility. See the presenters on this, John.
Mr. Chairman, John Higginbotham and myself attended the October 1 City Commission meeting regarding the construction of the Headend Building and concerns from the Tanglewood Neighborhood Association. And in conclusion of that meeting, the City Commission issued a statement regarding some mitigation measures they would like the plant board to approve, and those have to do with landscaping, softening the hard surfaces, providing a fence, either brick or rock or decorative. Bucket trucks are to be parked elsewhere, and we're to make a good faith effort to move the road from its current location that goes to the right-hand side of the clubhouse, and make sure that we are using appropriate lighting at the facility. And I would like to add that we are meeting with the Tanglewood folks tomorrow at 2 o'clock, about 15 of the neighborhood folks, and I'm going to give them a tour of the Headend, and we're going to put meeting with the Tanglewood folks on a fast track now that we've got some schedules lightened up, and we'll put that on the front burner and getting meetings set up with those folks on a much more regular basis.
John, do you have anything?
I would just add that, I turned this in about 11 or 12 days ago to the board secretary, and so at that time we hadn't extended the meeting yet, but to reiterate, the meeting is tomorrow with Tanglewood Neighborhood at 2 o'clock at the clubhouse. Provide the tour, something I think similar to what we did for the two board members last week, and we will take the next one.
Okay. Reviewing the requirements of the City Commission, there was one item there that I have some concern about, and I mentioned it to you. And that is that bucket trucks are to be parked elsewhere. It strikes me that that's getting into the sphere of day-to-day operations of the plant board, and it bothers me a little whether that's a practical thing to attempt to restrict the plant board from parking its own equipment on its own land. What its needs are, I don't know if the city commission would even know what our needs are at any given time, any given day. Staff have any opinion of whether that's a workable thing?
Well, we as a staff, and there were a lot of us that were there at the meeting on October 1st, it's somewhat vague, and we didn't really have a clear understanding of exactly what that meant. The bucket trucks are a necessary part of our everyday role, not only at the building, but out into the neighborhood, or out into every neighborhood that we serve. That's just another tool that we use. That's where the offices are located for those individuals, and we've parked bucket trucks on that hill for decades. So we weren't really clear on what that meant. It's going to be in some areas, sometimes it's quite impractical not to have a bucket truck up there from time to time. So we weren't really sure what it meant. We just know that it's not very practical sometimes never to have a bucket truck up there. That's not exactly how it reads, but we have a lot of concern over not being able to utilize the facility in the way that it was designed.
It strikes me that we have an electrical substation there, and we have the reservoir there, and we have the clubhouse there, and we have the cable telecom infrastructure there. And there's so many of our operational aspects there that it bothers me that we might be restricted as to being able to park a truck there. That's the only part of the requirements that bothers me. The rest of it I think we all want to do. And I encourage the management to work with town on these subjects. I think we do want a building there that's looks right, looks nice, good landscaping, lighting that's downward and not around, and all these things. And I do want staff to make a good faith effort to do what we can do.
Right.
But I am bothered about the truck. So, members, it's under discussion. So,
Well, aren't there two sizes of bucket trucks? Really large ones and more medium-sized?
Right, and there are different sizes of bucket trucks throughout the company. In the cable department, we have one size of truck, and it's the smallest of really any bucket truck in the company. Adam Hillard works with this every single day, and I'm confident that he can provide some detail on height, width, length of the vehicle. I don't know it off the top of my head.
Yeah, I believe, stow capacity of the boom, it's about 11 feet tall, the truck, and they are the smallest of the bucket truck fleet that we have. They're about 11 feet long, so, you're looking kind of a crew cab, full-size truck, chassis, a little bit bigger, but that's about it. It's,
Well,
pardon?
I think that would be good to point out to them, just what you're saying, smaller ones. And from talking to Suzanne Gray, it sounded like the beeping of backing up, the noise that trucks make backing up with the beeping sound, if that could possibly be minimized.
Right, and I don't know if some of the backing up noise that was part of the complaint is the construction equipment on site now.
Well, that's true.
Because we have several excavators, we have skid steers, we have equipment handling machines up there, and anytime those, by OSHA, anytime those machines are going in reverse, the beeper's on. Typically, we would only have the beeping sound of our trucks would only be usually in the afternoon, because the way we've typically always parked, we can pull directly out in the morning when we leave, and when we come in the afternoon, depending if it's the end of the day, they'll back in the parking spot, and that's where they would get the beeping sound. That's usually typically about 3 o'clock, 3:30, just depending on what the schedule is. So I didn't know with some of what we heard during the city meeting with the city commission, if that was part of the complaint, was maybe the actual equipment that's doing the work up there now.
Yeah, Yeah, I think it's probably some of each, but I think not hearing it beep first thing in the morning would probably be a very positive thing, and to,
Like I said, typically,
That's a great point. It really is. Let me just show you real quick. The way that Aaron Nickerson at GRW designed the parking lot took into account the size of the trucks themselves, and then we use an average size of the personal vehicles. Because some guys drive pickup trucks, some have cars, et cetera. But he designed the sweep of this turn into that area like this, and to back the truck in on this side. And so as Adam has said, they would be pulling out every morning when these guys have a 7 a.m. work start time, so they're usually in the truck by 7:15, 7:20, and they'll be pulling in a forward direction, so there'll be no beeping. The only beeping that typically is going to happen on a regular basis is going to be about 3:15 in the afternoon when they come and quit for the day, where they'll come in and they'll park, they'll back in. Of course, that doesn't, 2 o'clock in the morning in a tremendous thunderstorm and somebody's got to get to that building, yeah, you're going to probably hear beeping, but you're probably going to hear a lot of thunder and lightning that night anyway. That's probably infrequent. I'd say probably 10, 12 times a year. It just depends. It just really does. But we've done our best from a design standpoint to minimize the backing, because that's a safety aspect we don't want to deal with. And at the same time, there probably is a way that we could turn the beeping off, but I don't think the safety officer is going to allow that. She's giving me a look.
no, I don't think that would be good. But I think to minimize it at 5 or 6, or well, whatever time in the morning.
Yeah, so we're
not
talking
have-
more about 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah,
It's
most people aren't
3 to
home.
3:30 that it is, but as Adam has talked about, we haven't had a bucket truck up there since April.
well, we did move some lines.
A little bit,
you know.
you're right.
Yeah.
We did move some stuff on this end, but on a daily basis, we haven't had anything up there for nearly 6 months. We've been parking way over here. Yeah,
And I didn't know if part of the city commission meeting, they were talking about that, because, temporarily, we used to park the bucket trucks, and John can show you where we used to park them, and I didn't know if some of the complaints were where they were parked down where everybody could see them as they drove through Tanglewood, because typically they were up on the hill, because we have done some temporary parking to move everything down there so construction could happen on top of the hill. So I didn't know exactly what the...
Part of it is, we haven't had a chance to talk to Tanglewood face to face.
Yeah.
And we don't really have a great understanding of what's on their minds. And over the course of the next several weeks and months, we'll get a better idea of what it is that is really on their mind. So we'd like to have those meetings, get started.
Is there a change in the number of trucks that'll be stored up there?
Bucket trucks, no, sir.
Same as it's always been
Same as
operational over the
always.
years.
I mean, currently, right now, we have 5 extra construction trucks. And right now, what we're doing is, those work in the cable construction department, they've been lending a hand to the technicians in the field. And as we cut over, they'll be up there doing, part of the cut over and things of that nature. But after it's all said and done, then we'll go back to the original 4 that's always been there.
What was the number of?
4.
4.
Members, more discussion?
Well, I think actually meeting with them in a calm situation, looking at the construction and sharing information with them, I think will go a long ways to solving some of the problems.
Are there plans, I know you have a tour scheduled on Tuesday, are there plans to set up a regular meeting cadence with the TNA folks so that they're sort of proactively providing them with information?
That's our expectation, and that's our expectation, yes. We really hope to nail down some of the particulars tomorrow. If not, maybe the rest of it in a subsequent meeting. I just really haven't had a chance to, as a staff, to really talk to the neighborhood association outside of public meetings. So we look forward to doing that, starting that process tomorrow.
Along those lines, I would encourage the board members to, if they're interested in participating in any of those meetings, I encourage them to do that, keeping in mind the quorum rules, of course.
Oh, minimum of 2 of us.
Yes.
Okay,
Maximum of 2.
yes.
Anything else?
Well, I was just wondering if maybe we ought to direct general manager to bring up the issue with Mr. Zissoff to get clarification. I don't think it's a stopping point from us agreeing to their mitigation, but I think that if we approve tonight the mitigation issues, that ought to be something that we broach with the city to make sure we have an understanding, and they have an understanding, is it not on property, is it not in that location, get that clear, but I don't think that should stop our voting or not on the issue of mitigation, so.
Well, it may be, as was brought up, that they think some of those big trucks, the really big construction trucks, are plant board trucks, which going through that with them maybe will help.
6 a.m., it's hard to tell
Well,
which
yeah,
beep is.
It's just large and big.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, one of the trucks will be there tomorrow.
Right, good.
And we can talk about it, walk around it, and it'll be the first of several discussions, I'm sure. But
Okay.
yeah, it kind of sticks out with the big logo on the side of it. So we'll have it there and everybody can understand what it is, how we use the trucks, and start working on it.
Members, we have a motion with respect to this. It's listed as an action item to consider a set of mitigation requirements. I think we should take some action.
Well, I'd move that we would approve the city's mitigation actions request. I'm not sure how they term that.
Can we approve those before we clarify the direction with the bucket truck park?
Well, I was going to say, I was going to say that that I would move that we approve the city's recommended mitigation procedures with getting further clarification about the parking of the bucket trucks as one of their items. I'm not sure if that's proper motion procedure, but that's the feeling that I
I
have.
won't ask you to repeat it.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion. Basically, it's to accept these mitigation requirements, but needing further discussion about the business about bucket trucks. Okay, I'll second that. Any discussion, members? Let's call this one by board member, please. A vote yes is to accept the mitigation requirements, and a vote no is to not.
Member Rosen?
Accept, or yes.
Member Ludwig?
Yes.
Member Green?
Yes.
Member Pogrodsky?
Yes.
Member Baldwin?
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item, actually, there's two items that are related pertaining to our health insurance administration. Item number 6 is an action item. Consider accepting a proposal from MedBen for third-party administration and related services for FPB's Employee Group Health Plan effective January 1, 2016. And I'll go ahead and read number 7 as well. Number 7 is consider the health plan options and the employee contribution rates effective January 2016. So we see Robin Curry and Ms. Stam back there, I believe. Okay, Diane?
Yes, I want to thank Lisa and Robin for presenting this evening. They helped us issue in August a request for a proposal to 12 companies for the administration of the partially self-funded employee group health plan. And we had 8 companies that responded. The responses were analyzed based on the administration fees, stop loss insurance coverage, the services provided, and also the provider network. All of the stop loss quotes that were submitted with the proposals were preliminary and are subject to change based on review of recent claims data. But a copy of the RFP that was issued and the evaluation of the responses is included in the detailed pages of the board package, starting on page 141. Staff recommends the board to consider renewing administrative services with MedBen. MedBen was rated number 1 overall among the responders and has provided admin services case administration that we pay per employee per month slightly increased. MedBen proposal includes a 2-year rate guarantee. With the renewal, staff would like to include MedBen Well Living. MedBen Well Living is a wellness and disease management program that helps control costs by encouraging prevention, early detection, and condition management. Additional information on well living is included in the detailed pages of the board package, and additional information is also included in the next board item. There's a table at the bottom of page 4 that shows the estimated expenses for calendar year 2016 based on the preliminary stop loss premiums and expected claims that we received during the RFP process. Be happy to answer any questions. Do you have anything for me or Sam and Mr. Kirk?
Lisa and Robin, if y'all would stand up and introduce yourselves. Got a couple of board members.
Good evening. I'm Lisa Stam. I am Vice President of Consulting Services and Staff Attorney for Cheryl Morgan. And this is Ron Curry.
I'm agent with Cheryl Morgan and I work in the consulting division as well.
The two of us primarily manage the self-funded block of business at Cheryl Morgan, and we do specialize in self-funding, and we also specialize in managing governmental health plans.
The well living aspect, that's new, something new for us as an audit, is in response to, I think, some of the board members in the past have had concern that typically it's the men, employees don't necessarily go to the doctor and don't get annual checkups, blood tests, and so forth. The plant board's providing a very good health plan, very reasonable cost to employees, and incurs expense in doing that. And then we have perhaps 40% of the men that don't avail themselves of even minimal health care. So I think that's what prompted the board to ask you all to look into having an option, a well living type, what you call a well living type of option there. So, in a meeting a few days ago, it's my understanding that under the different arrangements, the options here, that if an employee elects the well living plan, that their premium is not increasing from what it was. Is that basically the case?
Well, the proposed contributions for the well living are the same as the contributions for the standard plan for 2015, but the exception would be the dental and vision. There would be a separate contribution for...
And that's in addition?
Correct. And so that would be an increase, for every employee.
$9.51 a month. Would you, for the benefit of everybody here tonight, board members, could you brush over the well living options, what that entails if an employee elects to go with the well living plan?
Let me make a comment before you start. Anyone giving the report needs to speak up. Not that we can hear it, but on the audio for what he's doing, because people who are going to watch Channel 10 and watch this board meeting are not going to hear what's being said.
You might want to come up here towards the front.
Well, what we found in managing self-funded health plans is that the best vehicle for managing high claimant costs is a wellness program like Well Living. And the purpose of Well Living is to incentivize your members who are employees, spouses, or dependents 18 years of age or older to get certain preventive services, which are all covered at 100% under your health plan. And the mix of services that they're required to receive depends on their age and gender. So not everybody needs a colonoscopy every year. But if you are of an age that you do need one, then you'd be required to have one in order to get the reduced premium in the following plan year. There are 5 different preventive screenings, I believe, that they're required to have. One is a preventive exam every year, and then colonoscopies, pap smears, mammograms, and cholesterol screenings.
Now, the way it'll work, if I read this correctly, is that the employee selects a plan, and if they select the well-living plan, that they sign a pledge, right?
Correct.
They will comply with this, and in the first year of the operation, they must do the various requirements first year.
You're giving them 10 months time.
Yeah, what we were proposing, what we were proposing is that we, at the beginning of the year, before the open enrollment or during open enrollment, we ask employees if they want to participate in a well-living plan, then they would sign a pledge that just says they agree to have the testing that Lisa described. Then they would have until December 1st to have all the testing that's required depending on their gender and age. And but during the plan year that starts January 2016, they would have the reduced contribution level. Now, if they don't get all the testing that they agree to up front, then the following year they wouldn't be able to participate in the well-living option. And we wanted to kind of offer that this year so that, we could just have a little more, I guess, enthusiasm and participation if they were, able to participate in well-living starting in January versus having to wait a year, to get the incentive.
They would receive, all employees would receive letters from MedBen telling what age or gender they're in, what testing is required in that, and then they have 11 full months to get the testing done first of the year to December 1st. And then if they comply with all that, they get the same lower rate. Next year, if they don't, then they go to the higher rate.
And also, MedBen provides information online for the plan member. They can go in and see, I need to have a colonoscopy. It's been, time for me to have one, or whatever the test that they need. They can find that out online with MedBen's website.
They also, MedBen will go back and look, since they've had the account for 8 years, they can look back and see if you had your colonoscopy 4 years ago, so you don't have to do that again. So if you had the first one at 50, you don't do it again until 60 or however it goes. So they know that already. And if you get a new employee that had one done last year, they can submit that doctor record and not have to go through that again. It's not everybody enjoys the colonoscopy.
Well, again, what underlies this is that my understanding is we cannot require an employee to get any kind of medical care, but we can incentivize it. And that's what this is all about, is offering them an incentive to do these things.
The way we structured the contribution, the incentive is $25 per month reduced premium cost or reduced contribution for single coverage, and it's $50 a month less for all the other levels of coverage, family coverage or between children, etc.
And we're not the first plan that's developed a well-living option. If you could talk for a minute about the other companies that have a well-living system. I know we've got a couple local companies that use this.
I know the state has an incentive, and theirs is more involved, and I think theirs is Living Well, actually. It's the reverse of ours name-wise, but there are other incentives that they offer as part of that, but I think it's pretty standard, it's pretty common to find wellness plans that are offered to incentivize employees for to get preventive care.
Yes, absolutely. I think the vast majority of our clients who are probably 50 or employees or larger offer some kind of wellness program, and typically there is an incentive associated with that wellness program to get people to apply.
Last year we did a survey exchange, you would receive between, I think, $50 to $100 less, either cost you less for your insurance contribution, and 62% said that they would participate in that type program.
Wasn't there something about in 2018 that this is going to be required? Or,
I think it's going to be required. The only thing that in the, are you referring to the dental vision for 2018?
I think you're right.
The Cadillac tax.
okay, yes, I didn't understand that, but I mean, when it was reviewed before.
Starting in 2018, under the Affordable Care Act, plans are going to pay an excise tax, a 40% excise tax on the amount of health care costs that's over a certain threshold. And since dental and vision are not considered, essential health benefits that have to be included in your medical plan, you can offer those as a standalone plan, and then the cost to provide those does not go into that calculation for the excise tax. So the general recommendation is, to separate that out to reduce your potential for the excise tax that we would pay.
And Lisa, can you comment on your other clients on whether or not they are separating the dental and vision out?
Yes, the vast majority of them do, and the Cadillac tax also does apply to what we're doing with well living, in that the whole purpose of having the wellness program is to keep your claims costs under control. And so anything we do between now and 2018 that stems the future high claimants that the plan would otherwise have is all going to be good in terms of not exceeding that threshold and having to pay the 40% excise tax.
Yeah, I might add, we're on page 156 of the board package. That's where you see the 4 different contribution rates noted and the proposed dental and vision contribution at the bottom of that page, 156. That's sort of, I think that was part of agenda item number 7.
Generally speaking, going back to your original question, Herbie, the Affordable Care Act does not apply to standalone dental and vision plans. So if you want to have more flexibility with your dental and your vision plans, then it's highly advisable to separate that from your medical.
The staff reported that, I think we sent out requests for proposals to, was it 12? Why, there's 8? Were they very close, or was this clearly a MedBen selection here? Was it difficult to settle on a plan provider or not?
Well, actually, we have a score sheet in there. It's 143, where we actually went through each category. We separated out into categories of TPA fees, what the third-party administrator fees were, the administration fees, the TPA score, how they responded to the RFP. We structured the RFP with points in it, and as we went through that, enhanced the system in developing that. But they were graded by how they complied with your RFP. And then the third category was stop loss. And basically, when you do stop loss, it's a reinsurance is what it is for your plan. So if you hit a certain threshold, then you have coverage on every individual. But how we score that is you can tell by the network cost of which network is more beneficial to your plan by the stop loss. And so that's why we have that, even though we need to continue and hopefully get that in place next month. So with those 3 things, we do that. And then the score, MedBen came in first on the average of those scores. And but like Diane had said, there was 8 responses, which is pretty good. And all of them were, professional companies, good companies.
All right, members, any more questions for Robin or Lisa? A lot of work behind all this, isn't there? Well, we're being asked to consider accepting the proposal from MedBen for the third-party administration and related services for the health plan effective January 1, 2016. How long does that term run, starting January 1? Is it 3-year or 5-year?
The plan year is a 1-year period, but their proposal is a 2-year rate guarantee.
So it's not just a 3 or 4 or 5-year plan, we could terminate at any time, is that right? They could?
Yeah, I think there's probably a 30-day notice period or something like that in the contract. They're 1-year contracts, but they're guaranteeing that they'll hold the rates at the anniversary of the contract.
We typically come back every year.
All right, members, questions or comments? Do we have a motion regarding item number 6? I'll make the motion. I move that the board accept a proposal from MedBen for third-party administration and related services for FPB's employee group health plan effective January 1, 2016.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion.
I think it looks like a good, appropriate choice.
Okay, we'll call this by member, I believe. Vote yes is to accept this proposal. Vote no if you do not accept it. Kathy?
Member Rosen?
Yes.
Member Ludwig?
Yes.
Member Green?
Yes.
Member Pogrodsky?
Yes.
Member Baldwin?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Action items number 7, of course, is related. Consider the health plan options and employee contribution rates effective January 2016. So this is really on the business of approving this panel of selections here that the employees can decide upon, and then the rates.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion second. Discussion. None? Call this by member. Vote yes is to adopt this health plan options and rates. Vote no would be to not adopt.
Member Rosen?
Yes.
Member Ludwig?
Yes.
Member Green?
Yes.
Member Pogrodsky?
Yes.
Member Baldwin?
Yes.
Motion carries. Robin and Lisa, thank you for coming down tonight and explaining this to us. Very well. Appreciate all the good work you do, and looking at all this statistical stuff you have to go through.
Our pleasure, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next item is number 8. This is a monthly thing that we do, and I brush over departmental reports just to kind of keep in touch with the departments and what might have happened is significant in a given department in the last month. So the first subject is cable department.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail than I typically do with our 2 new members. These reports of, not just for my department, but for others, have kind of evolved over a long time. And it's, they're not set in stone, and we modify from time to time, depending on the needs of the board. The first report that you come across on pages 161 and 162 are trouble call reports that are generated within our customer information billing system. The IT department has put together several different generic troubles that we see from pretty much every given day or week, month or year, and we break them into different pieces depending on if it's a cable service or a telephone service or if it's a data service or the internet. We don't list every single trouble call. We'll give you the number. It's 683 for the month. So we break down really the areas where we have the most trouble calls. It's a short conversation I had with Ms. Rosen and with Mr. Baldwin last week as we did a walk around some of our areas. A lot of our trouble calls are open to interpretation, not only on the customer end, what they think the issue issue is as it's reported to us, but also in the customer service department, but also out at the cable building, either on the front end as the customer service rep puts a label on the type of trouble call it is, so we can identify it and know what we're dealing with before we go. And sometimes that fix, so to speak, changes. It wasn't really this, it was actually that. Or, and sometimes we don't know exactly what the problem is, because by the time we got there, no problem exists. So you will see, from time to time, not FPB problem or no problem found. So there's a lot of moving pieces in this. It's not an exact science. It's a report that we've put together for, I have no idea. I've seen this report for almost 20 years. The information's pretty good. It's a lot better than it used to be. But you can see the majority in cable is STP. I know we use a lot of acronyms too, so over the course of the next couple of months, we will probably go back and not use acronyms anymore to help the new folks out, and even the folks that have been on the board for a while, we kind of use a lot of them here. STP is set-top box. To put that in perspective, we had 101 trouble calls of some sort with a set-top box in the month of September. We have in service somewhere close to, Mr. Heller, 14,000. Somewhere close to 14,000 set-top boxes, and we had 101 troubles. So that's, from a decimal point of view, that's pretty insignificant, except it's your set-top box. Miscellaneous trouble call could be a little bit of everything. Drop is actually the coaxial cable from the pole or the pedestal to your home. Sometimes trees, limbs get on it, pull it down. DTA is a little $1 set-top box we have, or digital terminal adapter. Customer education is also kind of a thing that we really throw a lot of different things into it. A customer may not know how to operate their TV and their remote and their set-top box together. They may have a tuning issue. They may not know what channel something's on. That can come up as a customer education issue. They don't know what channel Home and Garden's on. That can show up in this report. Customer premise equipment, that's the customer's TV. That's the customer's DVD player. That's the customer's old VHS, because we still run into them. Lower and raise is the transmit level. It's the strength of the signal itself. And we have issues certain times of the year, typically more in the summer and more in the winter when we have extremes in our temperature. It has an effect on the signal level, and we sometimes have to get out there and do a little work to either raise the signal or to lower the signal. In-home wiring is owned by the customer. That's pretty much everything behind the drywall is a way to think about it. And we're in some homes in this community that have wire that is 20, 30, 40 years old, and sometimes customers have problems with that. And so the connector themselves is also part of the inside wiring. I'm not going to go into that much depth on the other ones, but MTA, when you look at telephone, is the device itself that we provide the service over. Those devices, for the most part, are plugged in inside the customer's home into their electrical receptacles, and sometimes they stop working, or they get moved, or they get unplugged. Vacuum gets run, it gets plugged back in. Sometimes people forget to plug them back in. Those are trouble calls that would really show up here, and you'd be surprised how often that happens. The same for data on the second page, on page 162. Customer education, the CPE itself, that has a lot to do. Carl and Casey's department really deals with these trouble calls more than we do on the inside of the home, but a lot of that has to do with either customer education or CPE with the customer's computer or their laptop or their tablet. Sometimes devices that are internet connected, like a Roku box, would fall into that. That's really almost anything. The customers ask for our help from time to time to troubleshoot their equipment or their creative inside wiring or their connectivity, and we do our best to help those customers out as best we can. What you would see over the course of time is that we're probably going to average anywhere from 600 to 800 or 900 trouble calls every single month. Just depends on the time of the year. The extreme months, again, are July, August, and usually January, February, where we have our weather extremes that have a pretty big impact on us. I'm going to move on to page 163 real quick. This is a report that the Headend provides each month. And these are major outages, and you'll see the reasons typically are going to be either equipment on the pole or close to the customer's house, or power issues, power outage itself. And you'll see, I know the nodes don't mean, the number of nodes don't mean anything to you, but over the course of time, we will give you a copy of our maps. I think we gave you one the other day, but we can put more numbers and neighborhoods together, and you'll get to understand our nodes. Typically, we try and put the subdivision out to the side so you understand. On that first line, there were so many nodes and areas, they just put the node numbers on there, didn't actually describe the neighborhood. But it's generally around the hospital, around Walmart, and south of the interstate is where that outage was, that power outage was on September 6th. A lot of it is equipment failure or power. We typically don't see too many FPB power failures. What you typically see on power failures are Kentucky Utilities or Bluegrass Energy. We have the best power crew there is, and I've said this a lot of times over the years. We wish all of Frankfort Plant Board Cable Telecom was on Plant Board Power, but it's not. We serve probably 30-35% of our customers on somebody else's power, Bluegrass Energy and KU, and our guys are a lot more reliable, it seems to us. The last report is on page 164, and it just shows over the course of time, and also where we are budgeted on the number of customers that we have. So if you read from right to left, under Classic and Limited Cable, we have budgeted for a little over 14,000 customers for this month, in this 12-month period. The red line is for this year. We're showing about, we're up against our budget where we thought we'd be. We're losing fewer customers than we thought we were going to, actually. The blue line shows the exact same service a year ago, and the green line shows that the exact same service 5 years ago. So you can see the trends that way. That's something we've done for a few years for this board. So we're up a little on cable in both the first two lines. Preferred is also our second tier. We're up way up against budget on broadband. We are close, but a little under where we'd like to be on local telephone, but I think that's a trend we've seen for quite some time. Security is pretty flat. There's a little bit of growth over time, but against budget, it's pretty even. And video on demand is really has a lot to do with the time of the year and the quality of the movie in any particular month. So that has a real up and down effect to it. But what we have seen is that a drop off in video rental on demand over the course of the last 12 months. And there's really nothing we can do to stop that. There's so many different options out there today to go out and get streaming services that we're probably going to see something similar to that over the course of time. I apologize for how long I took on that. The new members, if you have specific questions, we're always here to answer them, and we'll do our best not to use acronyms for a while.
A couple questions about the first couple of pages. Do we track, is there a feedback loop for the customer about what level of satisfaction they had with individual calls?
We don't. We do not. We have in the past, but that is not something we have done for a while, to be honest with you. We used to have a drop card. Would that be a fair way of saying that? We would leave a card, and the customer would be postage ready, and the customer could fill out a box, give us a 1 to 5 or something, or 1 to 5.
Did that tie directly to that service call? Or
that particular service call, yeah.
And then what about duplicate service calls for the same issue? Do all these represent individual trip outs, or are they one case work?
It's one case, right.
So if somebody calls back and they don't believe it's resolved, that falls into that same case?
Right. We strip those out, but there are some.
Well, John might be pleased to hear this. I have a friend that hasn't been exactly favorable to the Frankfort Plant Board. He grabbed me around the waist the other day at McDonald's, and he has moved to Berry Hills, and he was so impressed with the installer that I thought I never was going to get away from him.
I'm really glad to hear that.
Anything else for John? Thank you, John. My name is customer service.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Welcome to our 2 new members. Customer service reports can be found on pages 165 and 166 in your board package, and there is simply regarding monthly call volumes and then week over week. In the month of September, customer service handled a total of just over 7,500 calls. And some information that's not included in those reports are that our billing reps served 758 customers in the office, and our service reps, 1,068 customers in the office, and created 195 new accounts. They serviced a total of 1,821 customers in the office, in addition to the 7,500 inbound calls and then callbacks. We're currently in the process of completing our agreement with the online utility exchange to begin utilizing the utility scoring in order to determine customer deposits. The board previously approved that agreement at the May 2015 board meeting, and we are moving forward with that. Our customer service reps will be in training as soon as shortly after the agreement is completed being signed. We are doing some improvements and security updates, and our next step on our security updates has begun. Customers began being notified on October the 1st through their bill notifications, also through the website and portal, and then also on our customer service calling phone lines, that effective November 1st for the safety and security of our customers and their accounts. Customer accounts will only be accessible by the account holder or their designated authorized user. And we're asking that any customers that desire to add an authorized user to their account contact customer service prior to November 1st when that goes into effect. I'll answer any questions that you may have at this time.
So what do people usually call in about? I guess there's nothing here that really indicates what reason they would have called.
They call in for a variety of things. Our billing reps take calls with regard to billing, setting up payment arrangements, and our service reps answer questions and talk with customers about upgrades, changes to service, starting new service. There's a myriad of different questions that customers call in about, in addition to finding out when our shut-off days are, when the last day that they can make a payment arrangement, the last day that they can pay the bill before being shut off. It's a variety of different things.
Do we track those to that detail internal, and it's just not in the report? Do we track the call,
What
just to
the
the call
customers call
category?
about?
Yeah.
No, sir. We actually really don't have enough time to track each call individually for the customer service rep to know additionally what the call is about.
And some of these calls include the calls that go to John's folks?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions for Monique? Thank you, Monique. Now we'll move on to electric.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, fellow board members. For the month of September, we had a total of 48 electrical outages. The majority of these electrical outages were related to wildlife contact. As this time of the year is usually when it gets cool nights, warm days, the squirrels tend to run around a whole lot, spiders build their little webs, and birds tend to pick the insects out of the web, so they all tend to get a little electrocuted. But that was the rouse for outages this past month. On page 167 is the outage reason graph that we give you every month. I apologize for not having the safety this month. It had a hiccup it didn't calculate right, so it dropped off. Mr. Foster was away on vacation, so he gets to deal with that when he gets back. He's the only one that gets to get that number working. Sadie. I found the information there. But the SAIDI number is still running about the same as always. It's right about 30. Just for the new board members, the SAIDI number is the average customer outage, how long the outage actually lasts. So national average is usually 90 minutes per customer, and our SAIDI number has been running around 22, 23 this summer. So we're still well below the national average with outages, so we're happy with that number. But, we'll until it gets cold, stays cold, the little critters tend to move around a little bit, so we'll have some problems this month, which we've already had. So, but I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Can't get anything out of them, Scott. Try SEPA, we'll definitely SEPA report this time, I say.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. If you'll go to page 168 in your board package, that's a chart showing our profit and loss by month for 2010, 14, and 15. SEPA stands for the Southeast Power Administration. The Frankfort Plant Board owns 15.621 megawatts of hydropower that we purchase from SEPA. The Army Corps of Engineers owns and operates 8 hydro plants on the Cumberland River. And in 1997, the Frankfort Plant Board, along with several other municipals, were given the opportunity to purchase some hydropower, and we purchased 15.621 megawatts. That's approximately 10% of a peak that we had back in 2007. I think we peaked around 158. So basically, we've got 10% of our load in hydropower, and we use our hydropower to offset our electrical cost from KU. We are currently marketing our SEPA energy. Owensboro markets our energy for us, and we get the profits from those. You'll turn to page 169. The second column refers to SEPA capacity, and those units are kilowatts. So if you move it over 3 decimals, that would be 13.6 megawatts. And I indicated earlier that we have 15.6. Right now, we're not getting our full allocation of SEPA energy due to work on Center Hill Dam. As many of the board members will recall, we spent the last 3 or 4 years working on Wolf Creek Dam. Well, the other dam that has seepage issues that are being repaired is Center Hill Dam. Those are expected to be completed in 2018, and then we'll get our full capacity back, hopefully at that time. There's 2 major things going on with our SEPA energy right now, and that's the $1 billion worth of work that's been required at Wolf Creek Dam and Center Hill Dam. The other thing is these 8 hydro plants that the Army Corps of Engineers owns and operates are well past their design life, and all of those turbines need to be replaced in the next 20 years, and that's another $1 billion. So 2 major things going on with SEPA, $1 billion for new turbines and $1 billion to repair 2 dams. And those 2 factors are going to affect our SEPA rates going forward. And then a couple pages further back, I talk about new SEPA rates. If you'll see on page 169, we had a profit this month of $7,897. Page 170, you can see from the inception of 1997, we've had a profit of $10.4 million in our SEPA energy. Page 171 was the last item I want to talk about our SEPA energy. I've told the board for 2 or 3 months that effective October 1, we were going to get new rates from SEPA. And what we're starting to pay for is the $600 million worth of work that's been done on Wolf Creek Dam. And the other thing that was proposed in the SEPA rates was some of the $1 billion that's going to be done on turbines. So what I told the board a few months back was SEPA was proposing a 32% rate increase. But in their proposal, they set up dates, August 2nd of this year. They would take written comments and oral comments from their customers related to their proposed increase. So Frankfort, along with other utilities up and down the Cumberland River system, expressed concern over a 32% rate increase. SEPA took this into account. One of our major complaints was they were charging us for construction work that hadn't been started yet. They wanted to start charging us for some of the turbines that hadn't been replaced yet. So they listened to our concerns and they took out those costs from their proposed rate. Again, they were wanting to increase rates by 32% October 1. They took our concerns to heart and they revised the rates in it's only going to be a 14% rate increase for a 5-year term with a true-up every April to make sure that what was in their rate, they're going to be able to collect for what construction they actually did have in progress. So very pleased with the outcome of the SEPA rates. It looked bleak early on, but much better.
Are we going to be able to market this energy at these higher rates?
We expect to make a profit in calendar years, but we may have 1 or 2 more months where we are in the red. But overall, we expect to have a profitable year. And we'll just have to keep a look at SEPA rates going forward as they start implementing rate increases for this $1 billion worth of turbines.
How many turbines are there? Do you know, or approximately?
I don't recall the exact number. There's 8 plants. There's probably 3 or 4 turbines in each plant, but I can get those numbers for you.
Well, I was just curious, so on the scale of like 30, 32, or?
I can't hear.
On the scale of about 30, 8 plants, 4 turbines at each plant, 30 plus.
I would say that's close, but I can get an exact number for you.
How does the power they produce compare with coal or natural gas?
I guess one of the biggest factors that has affected the electric industry is fracking. And fracking has produced such an abundance of natural gas, it has completely turned the electric markets upside down. We recently understood that this past July was the first time that natural gas generation was more than coal generation since those records have been kept. There are instances where the energy from the hydro plants is more expensive than the market at times due to the abundance of natural gas.
These various other Kentucky municipals, they're participants in SEPA too. What's been their experience with, do you know what their experience has been with being able to market their power or perhaps to use their power from SEPA?
Everybody is pretty much, all of the other municipals with the exception of Owensboro are in the exact same boat we are. We're all marketing our energy. The only system that will bring energy into their system is Owensboro. They have their own generating plant, and if for some reason they've got some maintenance going on a unit or something, they will bring the energy in. But all of the other systems market the energy. We have the second highest allocation of SEPA energy. Owensboro has 25 megawatts, and we're number 2 with 15. I think in total, we've got 64 megawatts between all of us.
Okay, well, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next few months.
Yes, sir.
Any more questions for Herbie?
Mr. Chairman, do you want a quick summary of the KYMEA?
Oh, yes. Okay, good. Thank you.
Members of the board, I'll give you a quick update on the Municipal Energy Agency. We had our first board meeting on September the 24th, and we'll have a little report as part of our regular board meeting going forward. But as I said, we had that meeting in Louisville, the first meeting. A lot of it was kind of organizational, housekeeping type things. We adopted the bylaws, and the bylaws you all saw at the meeting a couple of months ago. They were adopted unchanged there. We elected officers. Ron Hurd from Corbin was elected as chairman. Josh Callahan from Barberville was elected as vice chairman. Jim McCarty from Paris was elected treasurer, and I was elected as secretary. We We had representatives from Barberville, Bardwell, Benham, Corbin, Falmouth, Frankfort, Madisonville, Owensboro, Paris, and Providence at the meeting. We also adopted the Model Procurement Code, KRS 45A 345 and 45A 460. We are looking to solicit proposals from financial institutions to establish those banking relationships that we need to move forward. And we are currently in the process of trying to finalize our strategy that we're going to use for obtaining transmission service for all the members. That is quite a process to go through. To move through that, it's depending on the studies you have to have. It can take 6 to 9 months to get the studies in, and then depending on the sources of energy you have, improvements may need to be made to make that service available, and that can take anywhere from 18 to 24 months to get those improvements done. So it's a process that's going to take a while. As you know, our power supply will change, move away from the KU in the end of April 2019, and we'll move to new sources and options through KYMEA. Our next meeting is going to be October the 22nd. That's this Thursday in Louisville. And I'm working currently with our consultants to identify some dates in November when we will have them come in and have some kind of education and some background information for our 2 new board members. The other members have had, I guess it's been 1.5 years or 2 years now we've been doing this process. You guys have gotten to see quite a bit of information, so we wanted to bring the 2 members up to speed as much as we could. And so we will expect to do that. And then the same day that we have those consultants in to help you all with your learning curve on this, we are going to try to do some type of town hall meeting and kind of allow the public to come in and ask questions and let our consultants kind of educate them on the pros and cons and the things we're trying to accomplish with this. And we'll also have Cable 10 there. They will video the town hall meeting, and then we can replay that on Cable 10 for other folks that may be interested in seeing those kind of things. But that's kind of what's coming up ahead. Again, we're at the infancy. It's a lot of housekeeping things, and we hope to start moving forward with getting things in line so we can start to determine what kind of power supply options are best for our communities. Forward that process. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have on it, and certainly, in the next few weeks, we'll have a lot more information.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Pam. Safety, Kim? Looks like a good report.
Hello, my name is Kim Phillips. I haven't had the opportunity to meet you, but I've enjoyed having the board support our safety program has for the last 20 plus years that I've been here, and I really look forward to that with all of you in the future. I hate to start out my meeting, or my portion of the meeting, with telling you that I made a mistake, but I sent the wrong reports to Kathy for this board package, and I have last month's reports. They should say that we have 0 OSHA recordables for this month, and we did have a vehicle accident, but our driver was sitting still at a stop sign, and he was sideswiped by a privately owned vehicle. That was a cable van. There were no injuries, and just minor damage to both vehicles. I do have one other item that I'd like to mention. We received a call last week, so it didn't make it into the board package, but KEMI, which is Kentucky Employers Mutual Insurance, they're our workers' comp carrier. They insure 23,000 plus companies in the state. They're the largest workers' comp insurer, and they're our policy holder. And they called us to tell us that we have received the Destiny Award for the 5th year in a row. The Destiny Award is given to companies that have excellent safety programs, experience modification rates, loss ratios, and we are one of only 5 companies that have received that 5 years in a row. There have been 15 companies this year that received it, but that's out of 23,000. So We, like I said, we've had wonderful support from the board and staff, but ultimately, it's the diligence of our employees. We're working in a high-hazard industry, face a different array of hazards every day, and without their diligence, we can provide every bit of training, equipment, oversight that we can come up with, but unless they are diligent and follow through on that, people don't go home safely at night. So it's really kudos to our employees.
Ralph, I have one comment. It seems like last year at this time, Kim stood up and said basically the same report and said, it's very rare that companies do it 4 years in a row. And this year she stood up and said, we've done it for the 5th year in a row. And I think, to reiterate what Kim said, that's just an outstanding accomplishment for our employees. So you can't thank them each individually, but thank them from us.
Thank you.
Okay, water distribution, Billy?
Yes, sir. Water distribution reports are on page 175 to 177. And you see on 175 that there were 4 new water services installed for the month of September. On page 176, you'll see that we had a total of 4 main breaks in the month of September. And then on 177, you'll see that we had a total of 6 outages. 4 of those were due to the main breaks that occurred. 1 was due to reconnect a damaged service line, and another one was scheduled to replace a fire hydrant. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
If none, water treatment plant, Chris?
My name is Chris Riddle. I'm superintendent of the water treatment plant. I've not had the opportunity to meet you, 2 new board members also. I understand that there's a tour coming and that you'll have plenty of opportunity to sit and understand kind of what I'm talking about. The data that I'm talking about comes from page 178 in the board packet. And during the month of September, the water treatment plant treated greater than 252 million gallons of raw water with an average daily production rate of 8.4 million gallons per day. Compliance with all federal and state requirements were maintained during this time. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. I don't typically report outages. If we have outages that there are an issue, you'd be made aware of it, but we don't have major, we can't have major outages at the water treatment plant. If we do, we don't have sufficient water to fight fires in this.
New backup generation plant's completely finished.
Yes, sir. That project is complete, and that was something that we wanted to get the entire board to come and tour the emergency power generation facility, and that has not occurred at this time either. I think we're going to try to schedule a tour of that facility, and then also take the 2 new board members through the tour through the entire plant. It's just that our campus is a little larger. We have a lot more buildings, equipment, that kind of thing, and it takes a little more time than perhaps some of the other facilities.
How many gallons a day did you say?
8.4 million was our average. I think this is something maybe I should mention that I don't know anyone to explain to you, but the data that I think all the departments discussed is on a 5-year cycle. We look at the current year, the previous year, and then 5 years out to give you some comparison of where things are.
So David's going to crank up the generators for us?
He certainly can.
It's just pushing a button.
We test the engines weekly, and then we do a full lead transfer from generator over to utility, and utility back to the generators monthly. So just depending on when you're there, we'll either do the full transfer or just start the engines.
What I thought was interesting was not only the 2 big diesels, it was almost like 2 big locomotive type engines. It was all those electrical panels, all that electrical that's involved in that.
It's not a simple process of just starting the diesel engine. I mean, there's more things involved, especially in a process where we can actually transfer the load from the utility over to the generator, meaning that we can bring the generators on and mesh up with the utility without seeing any kind of interruption in the utility, and then shut the utility off, open the breaker, and run the campus and Sullivan pump station from these generators. And in reverse, where we can shut it back down and not feel any problems in the plant, see any dips in the plant. And getting to this point to be able to do that, we've had a lot of issues. We've had problems trying to get this equipment calibrated, but now it seems to work really, really well. We've got issues with our customers on the same circuit. Ben can talk about this better than I, but we can't put any additional load on the circuit and cause any kind of dips for anyone else that could be coming out of the same substation.
Yeah, that's correct. We have certain customers on the same circuit that the water treatment plant's on that any interruptions in power supply or pulling, so to speak, create a lot of problems with their processes inside their plants. I won't name names, you don't know who the customers are, but anyway, so that we did spend a lot of time, as Chris said, looking at different processes to do this soft transfer between both utility and the generation system. So it has worked well. It's been quite a process to get it all up and running. I think we took all the wire made in the United States for about a month.
Are they high usage customers you're talking about, electricity?
No, compared to most of our customers, they're not. I would say compared to our larger customers, no, they're not.
Okay. Anything else for Chris? If not, we'll move on to the Headend Building.
I'm a Medley board member. I'm Sharma Stadata. I'm a water engineer as well as project manager for the administration building. And as you know, I know we haven't scheduled our site tour yet, but this administration building is phase one of our consolidation as our company's expanded, and as you're aware, we're in multiple facilities. So the administration building will actually move employees from 3 of our facilities into this one. So typically for my departmental reports, I just give a brief construction update. When we go through our site tour, we can go into the plans in as much detail as you'd like. But for today, I just basically I'll go over the last month of activity and current activity now. So far, portions of the site have been seeded. The phase one section, the floor slab has been poured, and the phase one concrete ledge has been poured. We had a sewer line inspection by the Frankfort Sewer Department, and we're approximately 85% of our concrete walls are complete. And if you look at page 179, this is going to be a 3-story building, and the majority of the ground floor is going to be storm hardened. We're going to be hosting our dispatch center there. So you'll see the concrete walls there shown on page 179. The rest of the building will be a steel frame. Current activity, we're going to finish up those walls. We're scheduled for our next concrete pour either tomorrow or Thursday. Right now we're working on the elevator base and steel erection. The steel erection crews are on site this week, and we'll actually start erection next Tuesday. For the new board members, we do have an agreement with the photo documentation company, and they're actually coming out and taking photos each month and more frequently as needed. And we've given them our floor plans, and if you go to their website, you can actually pull up our floor plans, and you can just click on the photos, and you'll get to see the photo from that vantage point. So I will get your email addresses, and you'll be receiving an email from them with the link. And there's also an app available, and I'll send that information as well, so you can look at the photos anytime. They're usually updated once a month. Like I said, sometimes they'll come out more when needed. Basically, I refer back to the photos here. Page 179 is with my back to the Public Service Commission building, and that covered section there that you're seeing right here, that's where we poured the floor slab, and we've since then poured the concrete lid, which is actually the ceiling for the ground floor. So we'll have a fully concrete storm hardened area. And then page 180 is just another view with my back to the State Health Lab. My back's to Sour Boulevard. Happy to answer any questions or go into any more detail if you'd like.
I was curious, some of the pavements that's there is for the parking lot.
Yes.
And I was wondering if permeable pavement was considered the type that water can flow through it?
We discussed that, but when we did our geotechnical report, there was concerns about any potential karst development. So we've actually chosen not to even irrigate the area. We want to limit the water that's going to go into that area. And as well, we're not using irrigation vegetation, we're doing, that's conservation as well. So no, we didn't include that in this project.
So you're concerned about sinkholes opening from what?
Yeah, and they said there wasn't really any concerns now, but just to avoid it in the future because this region, there's always high potential for cars just in this region. So they decided to try to keep it less white.
I know McDonald's locations, the new McDonald's has it, and the police department downtown has it also.
They do, they have a small area.
Anybody have any questions or comments for Mr. Mister? Not, head in.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman and Board, last month I brought to the Board that I thought we would have a roof put on. Actually, we're running a couple weeks behind, and it's actually scheduled for next Thursday. I apologize I didn't get pictures submitted in time, but not too much has happened. All the walls are poured. They did add some sidewalks, and we have some masonry work going on, but right now we're trying to get everything ready to pour the roof, and hopefully that'll be done by next Thursday. All right. Answer any questions.
That concludes departmental reports. Agenda item number 9. It's been suggested we might defer this to next month, but I thought we might just go ahead and hear it. And then if the members do want to defer it to next month, of course, we can do that. Action item, consider approval of change order number 2 for the administration building for a deduction of $143,215.
In March of 2015, the board awarded the construction contract for the new administration building to Marilla Design and Construction. They're a construction firm based out of Lexington, Kentucky. And as construction has progressed, we've looked for opportunities to reduce costs. We've also came across some places where we had to add cost, but we've also came across some options where we can replace with a lower cost option. So I've been working with the contractor and the architect to find some areas where we can reduce cost. And it'd probably be easier if I stood up there and go over the plan review. I know there's a list here of items for the change order. I'll go through the plan. Item number 1, we just decided to remove all the parking bumpers. We felt like that was a pretty easy deduction. Items number 2 and 3 are similar. We had proposed some, see, these are landscaping islands right through here. That's the rear of the building, front of the building. Let me scoot back a bit and get your bearings. So this is Sauer Boulevard. This is Flint Avenue. This will be our primary entrance onto the site. The first right turn on Brink will be for our customers. This will be for customer parking. You go a little bit further, we are going to have a drive-through. This will be our drive-through lane. And going straight back will be our employee parking. So we had proposed those raised seating walls here, and throughout here. And in order to save some money, we decided to remove that from the scope. We are going to keep the seating wall right through here. And we also removed the seating wall here as well. But we're going to put 2 benches up here as well. Item number 4, we had our roundabout's going to be right here. So we wanted to put the drop boxes at the roundabout. We wanted to put our drop box here where customer service could easily access it, and plus there'll be security as well. So the original proposal was a masonry enclosure with a lot of more electronics, a lot of lights going to it. We decided to change that to just a standalone drop box. We'll still have lighting out there, and as I said, we'll still have security footage on there. So that's where that deduction came from. Item number 5, we had proposed solar panels. They were going to produce about 1% of the energy of the building, and that is something we have included on this list as a deduction. Item 6 and 7 are just some minor scope items that we've taken out. Same thing with number 8. And going down to, we do have a couple of additions. Number 10, we're going to have an elevator control room that needs to be air conditioned year-round. So we'll be adding an air conditioning unit to that room. So that was a little bit of an add-on there. Item number 12, if you know how much rain we got over it's June, July. So they did submit a request for additional weather develop a schedule in the first place, they look at each month's precipitation history, and they already assume those days as rain days and weather days, and they incorporate that original schedule. But the range is above and beyond what they would have expected. So we do have 12 additional days added to the project. Item 13, we are maintaining the builder's risk insurance policy on the site, so they gave us a deduction for that as well. And item number 15, we do have 3 retaining walls for this project. We have one right through here. We have a small one right through here. And we're also going to have one here on the back of the property. We were able to remove that after further investigation. We're able to maintain the slope that we need, so we're able to just cut that instead of putting a retaining wall in. And fortunately for us, that was a pretty good deduction shown on item number 15. So overall, proposed deduction is $143,215.42. And also on the agenda item there on page 6, we did have one previous change order for about $23,000. That was for additional rock removal that was unexpected above and beyond what we had originally had in the bid documents. And then you can see there on the list, change order number 2 is the deduction that I'm presenting to you today. You have to answer any questions?
These change orders that go down are the ones I like the best.
I agree. Well, I'm going to keep trying to do that throughout the project as well.
Well, I've asked the members, do they want to act on this tonight, or do you wish to carry it over to next month for further consideration?
Regularly carried over.
Okay.
I'd like to carry it over.
Okay. We'll talk at this, schedule it for next month for action. Okay. Next item, same type of approach. Consider approval of addendum to Windstream agreement for 10 gigabyte transport circuit solution. Hear it, and then make a decision whether to act tonight or to carry it over. Didn't know who was presenting on this.
I'll start. I'll probably tag team a little bit with Carl Bitzer and Casey Jones. Staff recommends approval of the addendum to the June 2013 Windstream customer service agreement in order to release a 10 gigabit transport circuit. The circuit is needed to move streaming video away from the internet connections we have today and more to this point-to-point circuit. Moving the traffic from the internet to this peering connection allows us to move. It's mostly Netflix. I think Carl Casey can get into the specifics on each one of these, but the vast majority of this streaming video is Netflix. And it will improve the FPB internet customer experience, and it's really less expensive to the company in the overall than buying the internet access. We're working with other providers to see if we can eventually lease another one of these redundant point-to-point circuits. The existing agreement had an initial 1-year term at successive 12-month rollovers. It rolls over every June, and so there's 8 months left on this rollover. This is an agreement that's been in place for quite some time with Windstream, and they've been an excellent provider. I will say on one level, it's taken quite a bit to get this circuit made available to us, and of course Windstream to actually put the paperwork in front of us. We started asking. I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but it's been a few weeks since I've asked. Was it November or December of last year? Casey Jones?
When we signed the original agreement in 2013, we were expecting 10 gig capability within at that time.
Yeah.
And they just couldn't offer it. And so they've been working for 2 years trying to complete their upgrades to their network. And so now they're finally getting to that point. So that's why we're taking this transport bill to evolve some video traffic.
We've budgeted for this a couple of years ago, and we've continued to keep this in our budget. It's just an item that we bring to you at this point. We wish we could have brought it to you sooner, but we've been waiting on our vendor to be able to provide us the service. They are kind of a little cagey on exactly when this is going to be available. They'll say no later than 6 months is what they've said to us in an email and writing. The facility itself to provide these services was constructed over the course of the last 12 months. We started purchasing internet access from this location through Windstream earlier in the spring. I can't give you an exact date because time just gets away from me, but it was earlier in 2016. So the facilities are in place to take us all the way back to Lexington. And so it's really at this point, it's for Windstream to turn it up and allow us to start using it. We'd be happy to entertain any questions you might have and explain the project.
So the price is $4,800?
It's I believe it's $4,800 or $4,900 a month.
Okay. Oh, a month.
A month, correct. To put that in perspective, we purchase internet access from 3 different providers. All of them are a little different. Each agreement, some are older than others. Some have extra charges that others don't have. In the aggregate, when you add all of them together, we are somewhere around $8.50 to maybe $9 per megabit. You look at this is about 49 cents on a per megabit basis. It's a metric that you could use to evaluate exactly why this is so much less expensive for us to go in this direction. And over the course of the next several months, actually the next few months, we'll be renegotiating one of these internet deals to try and get our pricing down a little bit. As a small independent provider, we're at the mercy of the middle mile and long mile providers that are out there. We're lucky in that in the capital city we have multiple providers to choose from. A lot of our municipalities, not only in Kentucky but around the United States, have access to one or two. In a Kentucky Municipal Utility Association meeting I was in last week with other cable telecom guys, there's about 20 of us around the state. The vast majority of those municipalities here in Kentucky have one provider. And that's not a great position to be in because you're going to pay whatever they tell you you're going to pay, basically. So we're extremely happy with the pricing that they've sent us for this and just the improvements it'll make on our ability really for streaming video so much better.
Any more questions for John?
So that I gather there's not a massive time pressure on this right now, so if we defer to the next...
I'm going to defer to Mr. Jones. He's the one that looks at our usage on a daily basis.
No, as far as our need for the bandwidth, I mean, they're talking 6 months.
6 months out, we'll decide this.
Anyway, what the date is, so
Mr. Chairman, as a point of proper procedure, should it not be that we table these 2 items instead of just not discuss them? So should there not be a motion to table the item?
That'd be a good idea.
Do we have a motion to table this?
I motion that we actually table action item number 9 and action item number 10 until the next regular scheduled board meeting.
I'll second that. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carries. Okay, down to number 11. Comes around every 2 years, election of officers for the Frankfort FPB board. I'll turn the meeting over to James at this point.
Move around here just so I can look down the table and see everybody. You have the bylaws in the agenda book there for tonight, and the bylaws state that each October and odd number years, the planning board will elect officers of the board of directors. They are 2-year terms, and we have a president, vice president, and a combined office of secretary treasurer. So we'll start out with the president, and we'll open the floor for...
This is the planning board, so this is the chairman, vice chairman, president.
Sorry, you are absolutely correct. Chairman and Vice Chairman of the Frankfort Plant Board of Directors. So we'll start with that, so that nominations are open for the office of Chairman of the Frankfort Plant Board of Directors.
I'd like to nominate Ralph Ludwig. He has served us diligently as chairman for the last few years. He has spent a tremendous amount of time and has guided us through some rocky waters, and I don't think we could improve upon his performance.
Mr. Ludwig's name is placed in nomination. Are there other nominations for the office of Chairman of the Plant Board of Directors?
I move that nominations cease.
Hearing no other nominations and a motion having been made to close nominations and hearing no objection to that, we will proceed to a vote. All those in favor of Mr. Ludwig being elected as chairman of the Plant Board of Directors, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Ludwig is hereby elected as chairman of the Plant Board of Directors. We'll open the floor for nominations for the office of vice chairman.
I wish to nominate Rick Prokoski for the office of vice chairman. Rick's had a couple of years as secretary treasurer, who's learned the ins and outs of plant board, finances, paperwork, and so forth, and he's becoming pretty knowledgeable now. And I'd be delighted to have him as vice chair because I rely on my vice chair quite a bit. So I'm nominating Rick.
Mr. Pogrodsky's name has been placed in nomination. Are there other nominations for the office of Vice Chairman of the Frankfort Plant Board of Directors? Hearing no other nominations, is there a motion to close the nominations?
Yes, sir.
Hearing no objection to the motion, the nominations will stand closed. We'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of Mr. Rick Pogrodsky serving as Vice Chairman of the Plant Board of Directors, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing no opposition, Mr. Pogrodsky stands as elected as Vice Chairman of the Plant Board of Directors. We'll open the floor to nominations for the combined office of Secretary Treasurer of the Plant Board of Directors.
I nominate Mr. Scott Green as Secretary Treasurer.
Dr. Green's name is placed in nomination. Are there other nominations for the office of Secretary Treasurer of the Plant Board of Directors?
Move the nomination cease.
Motion been made to cease nominations, and hearing no opposition to that motion, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of Dr. Scott Green being elected as Secretary Treasurer of the Frankfort Plant Board of Directors, please say aye.
Aye.
Dr. Scott Green is hereby elected Secretary Treasurer of the Frankfort Plant Board of Directors, and that should conclude that election.
All right, let's see what's next. Now, we're in session as the plant board. Now we need to convene briefly to reconvene as FPB Municipal Projects Corporation. So I'll ask for a motion that we recess for the purpose of convening as the FPB Municipal Projects Corporation.
Second.
So moved.
Motion second. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. FPB stands recessed. The corporation is activated here, and now we're talking about electing a couple of corporation officers. And I'll ask James if you start that.
We're now on those of you know, Frankfort Plant Board Municipal Projects Corporation is a separate corporation. It has the same board of directors as the Frankfort Plant Board, so all of you are also members of the board of directors of the Municipal Projects Corporation. It has as officers a president and a vice president. Both of those offices are currently vacant. So we'll start with president, and we'll open the floor to nominations for the office of president of the Frankfort Plant Board Municipal Projects Corporation.
Mr. Lieberman, I want to nominate Anna Marie Rosen to become the president of the Municipal Frankfort Plant Corporation, Projects Corporation. I tried to entice her to seek the office of Secretary Treasurer of the Plant Board, but she was a little hesitant to jump in that deeply, but she is willing to do this. It'd be good and important learning opportunity for her to become more familiar with this part of the company. So I nominate Anna Marie Rosen.
Ms. Rosen's name is placed in nomination for the office of president of the Municipal Projects Corporation. Are there other nominations for that office?
Move the nomination cease.
Motion made to close nominations for that office, and no objection to that motion having been heard, we'll proceed to an election. All of those who are in favor of Ms. Anna Marie Rosen being elected as president of the Frankfort Plant Board Municipal Projects Corporation, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Having heard no nays, Ms. Rosen is elected as president of the Plant Board Municipal Projects Corporation. Final office to be filled is for vice president of the Municipal Projects Corporation, and the floor is now open for nominations for that office.
I'm not going to let Walt get entirely away tonight, but I have to do something. So I nominate Walt Baldwin to office of Vice President of the Frankfort Municipal Projects Corporation.
Mr. Baldwin's name is placed in nomination. Are there other nominations for the office of Vice President? Is there a motion to close nominations?
So moved.
All right. Hearing no opposition to that motion, nominations stand closed. We'll proceed to a vote. This is to elect Mr. Walt Baldwin as Vice President of the Municipal Projects Corporation. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing no opposition, Mr. Baldwin is elected as Vice President of the Municipal Projects Corporation.
I think those offices run until, is it May of 2018?
Yes, sir. May 1, 2018.
Those two offices were, vacancies were created by the fact that the two other board members had left the board. All right, okay, that should conclude the business of the corporation tonight. So do we have a motion to go back into the FPB session?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adjourn the Municipal Projects Corporation meeting and reconvene the regular meeting of the Frankfort Plant Board.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. All right, corporation stands adjourned, and we're back in FPB mode again. All right, we're down to old new business.
Mr. Chairman, we don't have any old and new business tonight, and no comments under 14 items.
We need a closed session this evening.
No, sir.
No.
Mr. Chairman, before we get too far away, I'd like to throw something from left field, and I hope it's taken with the way I intend this. We have got a serious issue in front of us, as we all know, and it's the prerogative of the board chairman to appoint committees or subcommittees as directed. And I think as a good faith effort to show the residents of the Tanglewood Neighborhood Association that we are meaning well, I would be willing to chair a committee that would meet with the Tanglewood Neighborhood Association and our staff on a regular basis for the duration of the contract, to be that liaison between the board and the association, there again, as a good faith gesture, if you would be so willing to appoint that committee.
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea, Rick. I thought it crossed my mind. I do think that this board does need to designate somebody to be a part of that process. If you're willing to undertake that.
I may be a glutton for punishment, but I am willing to do that, yes, sir.
Delighted to do that. I don't know if we need a motion to do that.
I don't know either. It's something
Which to be
that,
appointed as our designee.
I would suggest a motion, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so tell me if you want me to rephrase this motion, but I'll move that our Vice Chair, Rick Bobrovsky, function as our designee with the committee to, on behalf of the plant board, to meet with the management and Tanglewood representatives on the subject of the Headend project.
that would be fine.
That's the motion. Don't ask me to repeat it. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Well, thank you, Rick, for taking that on. I think it's a very good idea. I think we should do that. I think we are in good faith in wanting to mitigate what we can up there at this point. Okay, if we don't need a closed door session, then...
Need a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.